Welcome to MrKhanMaths. In this video, we'll be learning how to do long division questions which give us decimal answers. I'll be looking at a range of examples, and if you have not done so already, I would advise you to watch my part 1 video on long division, as this video leads on from that. So let's get started. We have example 1, 336 divided by 5. Now you can see on the screen my steps to success. If you watched my first video on long division, you will notice I have simply added on an additional step. However, if you haven't, do not worry, as I will go through my steps to success whilst doing my examples. So before I can use my steps to success, I'm going to set up the question. So I'm going to draw my bus stop, and on the inside, I will have my dividend of 336, and on the outside will go my divisor, the number 5. I'm also going to write at the times table for my divisor, as this is going to help me answer the question. This is not necessarily required, but does come in handy. So let's go to our steps to success, and let's start with step 1. We are going to divide. I'm going to ask myself how many 5s are there in 3. And looking at my times table, you can see that there are 0 5s in 3. The next step I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply. I'm going to multiply my divisor and my answer. So 5 times 0 is 0. So I'm going to place my 0 here, just underneath my first digit of my dividend. The next step I'm going to do is subtract. I'm going to take away 0 away from 3, and that gives me 3. I'm going to see if there is a digit that I can bring down, and I can see that the number 3 is next to it. So my remainder of 3 now becomes 33. You may notice I also have an additional step to success, which is my placeholder. Now, the placeholder will only come into effect when I have no numbers to bring down, but there is still a remainder in my question. And hopefully you will see this when the example continues. So once I get here, I'm going to restart my steps to success. I'm going to ask myself how many 5s are there in 33. And using my times table, I can see that there are 6 5s in 33. So my next step is asking me to multiply. Again, I'm going to multiply my divisor and my answer. And using my times table, I know 5 times 6 is equal to 30. So I'm going to place my 30 here like this. The next step after that is to subtract 30 away from 33. So 3 take away 0 is 3. 3 take away 3 is 0. And finally, my next step is to bring down my next digit. So my remainder of 3 now becomes 36. So I'm going to repeat my steps again. I'm going to ask myself how many 5s are there in 36. And using my times table, I can see that there are 7. So I'm going to place my number 7 here like this. The next step is to multiply. So I'm going to multiply the number 5 and the number 7. So 5 times 7, looking at my times table, gives me 35. So I'm going to place it here like this. Next, I'm going to subtract. 6 take away 5 is 1. 3 take away 3 is 0. And you can see that I still have a remainder, but I don't have any number to bring down. So this is where my placeholder comes into the question. So when we don't have any numbers to bring down, but yet we still have a remainder, I'm going to put my decimal point in both my question and answer. And I'm also going to include my placeholder. Once my placeholder is put into place, I can then bring this down. So my remainder 1 now becomes 10. And then I will repeat my steps to success by asking myself how many 5s are there in 10. And the answer is 2. So I'm going to place my 2 here like this. The next step is to multiply. I'm going to multiply 5 times 2, and that gives me 10. So I'm going to place it underneath my 10 here like this. Which then leads me to my next step of subtracting. 10 take away 10 is 0. And there we have it. We have 0 remainders left, and we have our answer to our question. So 336 divided by 5 is equal to 67.2. Moving on to example 2, we have 672 divided by 15. So I'm going to follow the same steps as I did for my first example and hopefully get to my final answer. So I'm going to set my question using my bus stop. And on the inside of my bus stop, I will have my dividend of 672. And on the outside, I will have my divisor of 15. I'm also going to write out the 15 times table to help me answer this question. Now, looking at my steps to success, the first step requires me to divide. So I'm going to ask myself how many times 15 goes into 6. And the answer is 0. So I'm going to place my 0 on top like that. I'm going to then move on to my second step to success, which is to multiply. I'm going to multiply my divisor of 15 with 0. So 15 times 0 is 0, and I'm going to place it underneath my first digit of my dividend. Once I've done that, I'm going to subtract. So I'm going to take away 0 from 6, and that gives me 6. So I'm going to place that like that, and then move on to my next step to success, which is to bring down. Now, this tells me 6 divided by 15 is 0 with the remainder of 6. So my remainder of 6 now will be joined by the next digit, which is 7. So 6 now becomes 67. And now I'm going to repeat my steps to success until I end up with a remainder and no more digits to bring down. And then I can use my final step, which is the placeholder. So again, I'm going to ask myself, how many 15s are there in 67? And using my times table, I can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to place my 4 here at the top like this. And I'm going to then move on to my next step. My next step is to multiply my divisor of 15 with my answer of 4. And using my times table, I can see the answer is 60. So I'm going to place it here like this. And then move on to my next step, which is to subtract. So I'm going to take away 60 from 67. 7 take away 0 is 7. 6 take away 6 is 0. And now I'm going to bring down my next digit, which is the number 2. So my remainder of 7 now becomes 72. So there you have it. We're going to repeat the steps to success again, as we still haven't got our remainder down to 0. So I'm going to ask myself, how many 15s are there in 72? And using my times table, I can see that there is 4 15s in 72. So I'm going to place my number 4 here like this. And then I'm going to move on to my next step, which is to multiply. I'm going to multiply 15 with 4 again. And that gives me 60. So I'm going to place my 60 here like this. Next, I'm going to subtract. 2 take away 0 is 2. 7 take away 6 is 1. So there we have it, a remainder of 12. Now, you can see that there is no more digits for us to bring down. This is where I'm going to bring in my placeholder. So I'm going to bring in my placeholder. I'm going to put my decimal points in my question and in my answer. I bring in my placeholder. And now I am able to bring down the next digit. So my 12 now becomes 120. And I'm going to repeat the steps to success, which will then lead me to my answer. So the first thing I'm going to do is ask myself, how many 15s are there in 120? And the answer is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm going to place my 8 here like this. I'm now going to multiply 15 times 8. And look at my times table. It gives me 120. So I'm going to place that underneath like this. The next step is to subtract. 120 take away 120. And the answer is 0. And there we have it. We have no remainders left. And we have our final answer for 672 divided by 15, which is 44.8. Moving on to my final example, 6,450 divided by 40. Now, as you can see, the question has got a little more challenging. However, the same steps to success will stay in place in order to find the final answer. So I'm going to set up my question by drawing my bus stop. And on the inside, I will have my dividend. And on the outside, I will have my divisor. I'm also going to write out my times table for my divisor, which will help me answer the question. So my first step is to divide. I'm going to ask myself, how many times does 40 go into the number 6? And the answer is 0. So I'm going to place that here like this. The next step is to multiply. I'm going to multiply my divisor with my answer. So 40 times 0 is 0. And I'm going to place that here like this. This leads me to subtract. So I'm going to take away 0 from 6, and that gives me 6. The next step is to bring down my digit. So my remainder of 6 now becomes 64. And I am now going to repeat my steps to success. So how many times does 40 go into 64? And the answer is once. So I'm going to put my number 1 here like this. The next step is to multiply. So 40 times 1 is 40. So I'm going to place that here like this. And then I'm going to subtract. 4 take away 0 is 4. 6 take away 4 is 2. And finally, I'm going to bring down my next digit. So my remainder of 24 now becomes 245. This then allows me to repeat my steps to success, as I still haven't got my remainder down to 0. So I'm going to ask myself, how many times does 40 go into 245? And that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going to place my 6 here in my answer like this. The next step is to multiply. So 40 times 6, using my times table, gives me 240. So I'm going to place that here like this. And now I'm going to subtract. 5 take away 0 is 5. 4 take away 4 is 0. 2 take away 2 is 0. And now I'm going to bring down my next digit. So my remainder of 5 now becomes 50. Again, I'm going to repeat my steps to success. So I'm going to ask myself, how many times does 40 go into 50? And the answer is once. The next step is to multiply. 40 times 1 is 40. And I'm going to place that underneath my 50 like this. And then I am going to subtract. 0 take away 0 is 0. 5 take away 4 is 1. Now you can see that there is a remainder of 10. However, we don't have any numbers to bring down. This is where my placeholder comes into effect. So I'm going to put my decimal point in my question and my answer, and then insert my placeholder. I am now going to bring down my placeholder. So my remainder of 10 now becomes 100. This then will allow me to restart my steps to success. So I'm going to ask myself, how many times does 40 go into 100? And the answer is twice. So I'm going to put that 2 here like this. And then going to multiply my divisor of 40 with my answer of 2. And that gives me 80. So I'm going to place that here like this. Next, I'm going to subtract. So 0 take away 0 is 0. Now 0 take away 8 we can't do. So I'm going to borrow. 10 take away 8 is 2. So I've done my subtraction. And again, I still have a remainder of 20. So I'm going to insert another placeholder. And then I'm going to bring this down. So my remainder of 20 now becomes 200. So I'm going to ask myself, using my steps to success, how many times does 40 go into 200? And the answer is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to place the 5 here like this. I am then going to multiply 40 times 5, and I can use my times table, and that gives me 200. So I'm going to place that here like this. I am now going to subtract, and this will give me 0. So there we have it. We have our remainder down to 0. So therefore, the answer to 6,450 divided by 40 is 161.25. Now that you have seen me go through my examples, I would like you to have a go at Mr. Khan's skills check questions to see how you get on. Here are Mr. Khan's skills check questions. Please press pause and have a go at the questions on your screen, and press play when you're ready for the answers to be revealed. Here are the answers to Mr. Khan's skills check questions. Check how you have got on by marking the questions you have done. Thank you for watching. Please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Bye for now, and see you again soon.